Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Rahmatunisa and my partner Imelda Putri Yuniar Sitasari and also Maria Hebu. In this presentation, we will discuss the structure of verb phrase in English syntax. My part will focus on the basic concept of verb phrase, including their definition, characteristic, types of verbs, influence, and their general structure. This explanation will serve as a foundation before we move on to the subcategories of lexical verbs, which will be explained by the next speaker. For the first, I will to explain the definition of verb phrase. A verb phrase or VP is a syntactic unit that functions as the predicate of a sentence. It consists of a verb and any elements that are structurally related to that verb. In English syntax, the verb phrase plays a crucial role because it express action, event, or state involving the subject. Most importantly, a verb phrase must contain a verb, since the verb is the central element that determines the structure of the phrase. And for the next is characteristic of verb phrase. There are several key characteristics of verb phrase in English. The first is a verb phrase must contain a verb and is always centered on that verb. And the second is verb determine what other element might or must appear in the verb phrase. And the third is English verb phrase might contain two kind of verbs. For the first is lexical verb and auxiliary verbs. This characteristic allow us to identify verb phrase and analyze their internal structures. And then lexical verb and auxiliary verb. Lexical verb are verbs that carry the main context of a sentence. They belong to the general vocabulary of the language, such as run, eat, explain, and prepare. Auxiliary verb, by contrast, from a small and restricted class of verbs. They help lexical verb express grammatical meanings such as tense, aspect, modality, and voice. Common auxiliary include be, have, do, and modal verb like can't, will, and must. A complete verb phrase must contain a lexical verb, while auxiliary verbs may appear optionally. And for the next is complement and modifiers. In forming verbs, verbs may be followed by other elements known as complements and modifiers. Complements are elements that are required by the verb in order to complete its meaning. Without them, the sentence may be incomplete or ungrammatical. Modifiers, on the other hand, are optional elements that add extra information such as place, times, or manners. For example, in she read a book, the noun phrase a book, the function as a complement. In she read a book in the library, the prepositional phrase in the library, the function as a modifier. And then the basic structure of verb phrase. Based on this explanation, we can describe the basic structure of verb phrase using a simple this formula. And this formula shows that a verb phrase must contain a verb, while noun phrase and prepositional phrase may appear depending on the verb's requirements. This basic structure helps us understand how verb phrases are formed before examining the specific subcategories of lexical verbs. After understanding the basic structure and characteristic of verb phrase, we can now examine how lexical verbs are classified on the types of complement they required. And for the next, my partner will be explain the subcategories of lexical verbs.
Okay, next, I'll explain about transitive verb. Transitive verbs are verbs that require an object to complete their meaning. Without an object, the sentence is incomplete. For the example, she reads a new book. The sentence is analyzed as a TP. The TP consists of an NP as the subject and a VP as the predicate. The subject NP is she. Inside the VP, the verb read is followed by an object NP, a new book. The noun phrase a new book contains a determiner, an adjective new, and a noun book. This object NP inside the VP shows that reads is a transitive verb. For the second example, he likes music. In this tree diagram, he functions as the subject NP. The VP contains the verb likes and the object NP music. Although music does not have a determiner, it still forms a noun phrase and functions as an object. This confirms that likes is a transitive verb. And for the next is intransitive verb. Intransitive verbs are verbs that do not require an object. The sentence is already complete with only a subject and a verb. For the example, she sleeps. The sentence is analyzed as a TP consisting of an NP and a VP. The subject NP is she. The VP contains only the verb sleep. There is no object NP inside the VP, which indicates that sleep is an intransitive verb. And for the second example, they run. In the tree diagram, they is the subject NP. The VP consists only in the verb run. Again, the absence of an object NP inside the VP shows that run is intransitive in this sentence. And next is the transitive verb. These transitive verbs are verbs that require two objects, an indirect object and a direct object. For the first example, Sarah sent her friend a letter. The sentence is analyzed as a TP with an NP and a VP. The subject NP is Sarah. Inside the VP, the verb sent is followed by two noun phrases. The NP her friend functions as the indirect object, and the NP a letter functions as the direct object. The presence of two object NPs inside the VP shows that sent is a distransitive verb. And for the second example, Anna bought her sister a new dress. In this tree diagram, Anna is the subject NP. The VP contains the verb bought followed by the indirect object NP her sister and the direct object NP a new dress. This structure clearly represents second example. They run. In the tree diagram, they is the subject NP. The VP consists only in the verb run. Again, the absence of an object NP inside the VP shows that run is intransitive in this sentence. And next is the transitive verb. These transitive verbs are verbs that require two objects, an indirect object and a direct object. For the first example, Sarah sent her friend a letter. The sentence is analyzed as a TP with an NP and a VP. The subject NP is Sarah. Inside the VP, the verb sent is followed by two noun phrases. The NP her friend functions as the indirect object, and the NP a letter functions as the direct object. The presence of two object NPs inside the VP shows that sent is a distransitive verb. And for the second example, Anna bought her sister a new dress. In this tree diagram, Anna is the subject and be. The VB contains the verb bought followed by the indirect object and be her sister, and the direct object and be a new dress. This structure clearly represents a distransitive contraction.
Next is intensive verbs or linking verbs do not express action but link the subject to a subject predicative that completes the meaning of the sentence. So here, the subject predicative describes or identifies the subject and can take the form of a noun phrase or NP, prepositional phrase or PP, or adjective phrase or AP. For examples, the first sentence is Arno is a teacher. So this sentence is NP. The second, so let's look at the diagram. In the sentence, or Arno is a teacher, as in the diagram, the verb is function as an intensive verb. So let's look at the diagram here, intensive verb. So in the sentence, Arno is a teacher. The verb is functions as an intensive verb or linking verb because it does not express an action, but instead links the subject to information about the subject. And the phrase a teacher is a subject predicative in the form of a noun phrase or NP. So its function is to identify the subject Arnold, explaining that Arnold's role or profession is a teacher. So thus, the meaning of the sentence is complete because the intensive verb is connects the subject Arnold with the predicative a teacher, rather than showing an action performed by Arnold. Okay, next. Complex transitive verbs. So complex transitive verbs are verbs that require two complements after the verb, a direct object and objective predicative. So an object predicative here does not stand alone. It describes or can take the form of an adjective phrase or EP, and noun phrase or NP, or a PP or a PP prepositional. For example here, the audience found the performance incredibly entertaining. So the sentence is adjective phrase, right? So let's look at the diagram. In the sentence, the audience found the performance incredibly entertaining. The verb found functions as a complex transitive verb because it is followed by two complements after the verb. So the performance functions as the direct object, which receives the action. Meanwhile, the phrase incredibly entertaining here functions as the object predicative in the form of an adjective phrase or AP. So this object predicative cannot stand alone. Instead, it describes the direct object, the performance, by stating its quality or condition as perceived by the subject. So look at the diagram. So thus the verb found links the direct object with the object predicative, making the meaning of the sentence complete. Okay. Next is prepositional verbs. Prepositional verbs are verbs whose meaning is incomplete without a specific preposition. The prepositional phrase or PP that follows a prepositional verb is called a propositional complement because it is obligatory and selected by the verb. For example here, Jack replied to the email. So look at the diagram here. In the sentence, Jack replied to the email. The verb replied is a prepositional verb because its meaning is incomplete without the preposition to. The verb reply must be followed by the specific preposition to form a complete and grammatical meaning. So the phrase here, to the email is a prepositional phrase or PP that functions as a prepositional complement. It is obligatory and selected by the verb, meaning that it cannot be omitted without making the sentence incomplete or unclear. So the verb replied and the preposition to work together as a unit to express the full meaning of the action.
To summarize our presentation, we have discussed the structure of verb phrase in English syntax from both general and specific perspective. For the first is we explain that a verb phrase functions as the predicate of a sentence and must contain a verb as its head. We also discussed the distinction between lexical and auxiliary verbs, as well as the role of complement and modifier in shaping the structure of verb phrase. And then for the next, we examined the subcategories of lexical verbs, which show how different verbs require different types of complements. Overall, understanding both the basic structure of verb phrase and the subcategories of lexical verbs allow us to analyze English sentence structure more systematically and accurately. And this is reference we use. And I think that's all from our presentation. I hope this presentation helped us understand verb phrase better. And thank you very much for your attention.